Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now. Black power.
Support this man, Black media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Today is Wednesday, June 26, 2024. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. Today is the 11th anniversary of Shelby County versus Holder decision, where the Supreme Court significantly weakened the 1965 Voting Rights Act. We'll look at what lawmakers had to say and talk to Melanie Campbell, the president and CEO of the National Coalition on Black Civic Participation, about that very decision. Also, the Supreme Court says it is not a crime for state and local officials to take gifts valued at more than $5,000 from donors who benefited from an office official's efforts. Really? Also, last night, some big races all across the country, including a loss by Congressman Jamaal Bowman. We'll go over the election results. A Georgia judge gets removed from the bench after allegedly assaulting a police officer. Also, the first black female police chief in Louisville, Kentucky, has resigned after mishandling a sexual harassment claim. Plus, NFL Hall of Famer Emmitt Smith says Reggie Jackson's recent comments are proof that DEI programs are needed. Plus, Black-owned media in Atlanta pissed off with CNN for denying them credentials to tomorrow's presidential debate. The CBC PAC weighs in. It is time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, rolling with Roland now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
Well, we're still waiting for the Supreme Court to release their ruling regarding presidential immunity, but one story that jumps out is pretty crazy. Today, the Supreme Court struck down part of a federal anti-corruption law, making it a crime for state and local officials to take gifts valued at more than $5,000 from donors who were awarded lucrative contracts or other governmental benefits. Thanks to that official, in a 6-3 vote, the justices overturned the conviction of a former Indiana mayor who asked for and took a $13,000 bribe from the owners of a local truck dealership after he helped them win $1.1 million in city contracts for purchasing garbage trucks. Now, what's crazy about this ruling is what they laid out. They said that, well, you know what, the law really isn't clear. Prosecutors like, what are you talking about? The law is real clear. How do you come to that conclusion? It's no shock that you would have this court make this decision, considering you have people like Justice Alito and Justice Clarence Thomas who have taken, to Thomas' cases, $4 million in gifts from various people. Talk about absolutely crazy. Introducing my panel right now from the Fair Election Center, Rebecca Carruthers, joining us out of D.C. Glad to have you here, Rebecca. Robert Patillo, People, Passion, Politics, 1380 WAOK out of Atlanta. And also State Representative Yolanda Jones out of Houston, who's also an attorney. Glad to have all three of you here. Rebecca, this court is crazy. Now, first of all, what these conservatives have done is consistently, Rebecca, chip away at this particular law. They've allowed other politicians to get away with accepting bribes and taking gifts. You can go back to Bob McDonnell when he was the governor of Virginia. They overturned his conviction as well. But this ruling here is absolutely insane.
Thank you, Roland. So this is what's clear, is that the Supreme Court is letting us know that they are for sale. They're making it clear with this particular ruling, and they also protect their own. Because if the Supreme Court didn't rule this way, then what happens to Clarence Thomas? What happens to Neil Gorsuch? What happens to all of those folks where there's rumors that they're receiving gifts, lavish trips from would-be donors? I think this is bad for American politics. I think this is bad for the American judiciary. We should not have the appearance of corruption, and we shouldn't have actual corruption. And so basically what we saw the Supreme Court do was legalize corruption.
I mean, what's unbelievable here, Robert, is that, I'm reading this story from Vox here. And what they basically say is that officials can accept gratuities from people who wish to reward them for their official actions. That's the whole point of the law. So you don't make decisions for the purpose of saying, now, hook me up.
At least they're being honest, finally. I mean, it's not as if these things weren't going on the entire time and all of us didn't know they were going on the entire time. But it's just about time that we're all adults now. We realize this is a corrupt system and we need to stop calling it a democracy. It's not a democracy. It's not a republic. It's an oligarchy. If you have money, you get a different set of rules in America than anyone else. And the sooner we realize this and that we accept this, the sooner we can start fighting back against that. But as long as we keep thinking that this is the idea of one person, one vote, and the hard-working men and women in this country have an opportunity to make a change. No, it's about money. The Supreme Court, their rulings are based on money. So if that's going to be the case, let's get us some money together and see how much we can buy one of these justices for. It sounds like Clarence Thomas costs about $4 million. So let's find out how we can get $4 million and buy Clarence Thomas. And if it's that simple and that's what we need to do, if that's what's going to take for us to get our legislative agenda moved, we can either hope for the better angels of America to change, or we can get a GoFundMe together, buy Clarence Thomas on clearance somewhere, and then get these things done quickly, because it seems that we're playing by a different set of rules than everybody else is playing by.
You look at this here. This is crazy, Yolanda. The case is called Schneider versus the United States. Go to my iPad. This is what Justice Brett Kavanaugh said. They say there's a distinction between bribes and gratuities. Kavanaugh writes, bribes are payments made or agreed to before an official act in order to influence the official with respect to that future official act. Gratuities, quote, are typically payments made to an official after an official act as a token of appreciation. So basically what the Supreme Court is saying is, Yolanda, I need you to hook me up in getting this contract with the state of Texas. And, oh, don't worry about it. I'm going to take care of you after the fact. Don't worry about it. I will tip you after the fact. I will show my appreciation for your diligent work on making sure I get that contract after the fact. It's the same thing.
So first of all, we can have an agreement in advance. Don't pay me till afterwards. So really, you're buying me. That's what you're doing. But I would respectfully disagree that we need to hold a GoFundMe, because of the history of discrimination in this country, we ain't got as much money as white people. We just don't. They always gonna have more money most times. So I also think that Alito and Thomas had to vote the way that they voted because they already bought and paid for it. It is concerning to me because elected officials generally listen to two classes of people. One, people that have money who can buy them, or they can buy votes for them, or they can afford to get people to the polls, or two, people that organize. And it's much easier for people who have money. So it's discouraging as a lawyer for 30 years. It's also more discouraging because there is something called stare decisis, which means basically this has already been decided and we're going to follow the law because it's the law. And now this activist Supreme Court that has a supermajority of Republicans basically go along and they create new laws. And that's a problem as a lawyer because we generally know what the law is and we generally know whether our clients have meritorious cases. And we can depend on like the letter of the law, which when we get to the 11th anniversary of the gutting the Voting Rights Act, we'll see why when you change the law, it throws our rights into limbo. And I will tell you the people that are most often discriminated against unfair laws are Black people around the world. So I'm disappointed. I'm not surprised. And this is a perfect example of why elections matter, because the vote was along party lines and the Republicans always have more money than us. And if that's the standard, Democrats and poor people, we are in some deep
and to the point that you just made there, go to my iPad. This is what is in this Vox story. It says, Kavanaugh's majority opinion, meanwhile, relies heavily on policy arguments and other claims that go beyond the statute's text. He does attempt to make a textual argument. Kavanaugh notes that the statute at issue in Snyder, like a different statute that only concerns bribes, uses the word corruptly, but his best arguments are atextual. And that's the whole deal. So what this court is doing, they literally, as you said, they're making up their own rules. They're not even deciding cases based upon the case in front of them. Even we're waiting for this immunity decision. In the questions that they were raising questions and oral arguments that had nothing to do with the case in front of them. And so this ruling is really going to probably be this broader ruling that has nothing to do with the case in front of them. And Republicans always talk about activist judges. Well, what the hell do we have here than 6 conservative activist judges? Go ahead.
Roland, may I say something as a lawyer? Generally, when things go on appeal, the only thing that matters are the 4 corners of the document, right? So the specific law. The Supreme Court historically is known for making very narrow decisions dealing with the specific portion of the law. So for them to go outside of the 4 corners of the document and bring in the arguments that were made in court and in the appeals all the way up is stuff that just hasn't been done before. And again, as a lawyer, it's scary because I don't know what the rules are. How can I play a game when the rules are being fixed, when the goal line is being moved? It's not right, and it's unjust, and quite frankly, it's un-American. If we want to use words that Republicans try to claim for their own. So it's an oxymoron. It's hypocritical when you have Republicans who cling onto the Constitution who are literally destroying the freaking document and its amendments.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Y'all got to stop trying to hold Republicans to what they said previously. That was way back then. This is now. Now they're admitting to the lies they've been telling you, and they're admitting to who they really have always been. They've never cared about the Constitution. The Constitution was a convenient cover for them when they didn't want to abide by the civil rights laws. They are now making it very clear that if you want something done in America, you better show up with enough money to tip at the end. And I would love to see somebody using this as precedence in a prostitution case to say that, look, I wasn't paying for it, I was just tipping her afterwards, because it's the same process. And now that we know what the rules are going forward, that now it's pay to play by Supreme Court fiat, let's understand that that's the rules and get the money together we gonna need for the legislation we want. Now we know the rules, so now we can play by them.
But Roland.
Yeah, go ahead.
But Roland, if we're going to go there, okay, there's Monica Conyers, expunge Dollar Bill Jefferson's record then, overturn Rod Blagojevich, stop Senator Menendez from going to prison then, clean up Ray Nagin's record. So if we're going to go there, then let's go there then, you know, but this is bad. I don't even know that the Supreme Court has really thought about all of the ramifications of this, because I'm thinking about all the politicians in Chicago, New Jersey, Louisiana. You know, we've seen these cases. I think this is going to be very bad for our democracy.
Absolutely. All right, hold tight one second. When we come back, we'll talk about, again, the Supreme Court gutting the Voting Rights Act and the implications and what that has meant for our, so-called democracy ever since. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered right here on the Black Star Network.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr. Dr. Gerald Horne, a man regarded by many as the most important historian of our time. He provides us a history lesson I'm betting you've never heard before.
Texas enslavers who planned to continue the conflict even after Appomattox, even after the formal surrender of Robert E. Lee.
Dr. Horne talks about his new book, The Counter-Revolution of 1836, Texas, Slavery, and Jim Crow, and the Roots of U.S. Fascism. You do not want to miss this conversation. Only on the Black Table, right here on the Black Star Network.
Hello, my brothers and sisters. This is Bishop William J. Barber II, co-chair of the Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival, and president of Repairs of the Breach. And I'm calling on you to get everybody you know to join us on Saturday, June 29th at 10 o'clock a.m. in Washington, D.C. on Pennsylvania and 3rd for the Mass Poor People's Low-Wage Workers Assembly and Moral March on Washington and to the polls, and the post effort to reach 15 million poor and low-wage infrequent voters who, if they vote, can change the outcome of our politics in this country.
Our goal is to center the desires and the political policy agenda of poor and low-wage persons, along with moral religious leaders and advocates. Too often, poor and low-wage people are not talked about, even though in this country today, there are 135 million poor and low-wage persons. There's not a state in this country now where poor and low-wage persons do not make up at least 30% of the electorate.
It is time that the issues of poor and low-wage people be at the center of our politics. Living wages, health care, things that matter in the everyday lives. We will no longer allow poverty to be the fourth leading cause of death in this country. We must let our voices be heard. Join us. Go to our website, www.poorpeoplescampaign.org. RSVP. Get others to come. Get a bus. Get a van. Get on the train. Come and let our voices be heard and our votes be felt. Lift from the bottom so that everybody rises.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
we're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear. have been asking me about the pocket squares that we have available on our website. You see me rocking the Shibori pocket square right here. It's all about looking different. Now look, summertime is coming up. Y'all know, I keep trying to tell fellas, change your look, please. You can't wear athletic shoes every damn wear. So if you're putting on linen suits, if you're putting on some summer suits, have a whole different look. The reason I like this particular pocket square, the Shibori, is because it's sort of like a flower and looks pretty cool here versus the traditional boring silk pocket squares. But also I like being a little different as well. So this is why we have these custom-made feather pocket squares on the website as well. My sister actually designed these after a few years ago. I was in this battle with Steve Harvey at Essence, and I saw this at a St. Jude fundraiser. I saw this feather pocket square, and I said, well, I got some ideas. So I hit her, and she sent me about 30 different ones. And so this completely changes your look. Now, some of you men out there, I had some dudes say, oh, man, I can't wear that. Well, if you ain't got swagger, that's not my problem. But if you're looking for something different to spruce up your look, fellas, ladies, if y'all looking to get your man a good gift, I've run into brothers all across the country with the feather pocket squares saying, see, check mine out. And so it's always good to see them. And so this is what you do. Go to RolandSMartin.com/pocket squares. You can order Shibori pocket squares or the custom-made pocket squares. Now, for the Shiboris, we're out of a lot of the different colors, and I think we're down to about 200 or 300. So you want to get your order in as soon as you can, because here's what happened. I got these several years ago, and the Japanese company signed a deal with another company, and I bought them before they signed that deal, and so I can't get access to any more from the company in Japan that makes them. And so get yours now. So come summertime, when I see y'all at Essence, y'all could be looking fly with the Shibori pocket square or the custom-made pocket square. Again, RolandSMartin.com/pocket squares. Go there now.
On a next, A Balanced Life, it takes a village to raise a child, and truer words have never been spoken. If you're raising a child, you know that it's a blessed challenge like no other. Even more so if your child has a disability. We'll talk to parents and our expert panelists about the best way forward for your child to help you maintain your own sanity. On a next, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie on Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Me, Sherry Shepard, and you know what you're watching, Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Well, Monday was the anniversary of the Dobbs decision overturning Roe v. Wade. Today is the anniversary of the Shelby v. Holder decision, which 11 years ago, Supreme Court gutted the 1965 Voting Rights Act, Section 5, which required jurisdictions with a history of discrimination against minority voters to seek approval from the DOJ before changing voting laws. Well, you know, as soon as that came down, ooh, Lord, the Republicans lost their mind. It was Chief Justice John Roberts who said the pre-clearance requirement was unnecessary because voter discrimination was less prevalent than it had once been. Really? Okay. All right. So Democrats today talked about the importance of that and how critical it is. Joining us right now is Melanie Campbell, President and CEO of the National Coalition on Black Civic Participation, to weigh in as well. And here's the thing, that part right there is still stuck on stupid, where John Roberts figures, oh, things have been so great, we can now get rid of it. No, fool. The reason we have seen the progress is because that was always the backstop. They couldn't screw over people because they knew they needed to get cleared.
Roland, great to be with you tonight. Just another example, and it reminds us that foolishness didn't just start with the Supreme Court. In recent times, we've been dealing with this now for well over a decade, and the Shelby v. Holder case is an example of that. And the same court has taken the gloves off in there being a arm of the Republican Party, and they have no shame about it. And so we know elections matter, and the Supreme Court is something we really better pay much more attention. We got to do, I don't know how we're going to get folks to do it, Roland, but we got to get them to understand that this election, the next president of the United States who gets elected in 2024 will likely have 2 seats that they can fill on that Supreme Court. We're talking about if you pick up 2 seats, like the first 3, the last 3 that were put on there by Donald Trump, they would be able to rule and wipe out rights that would last for decades. So it's a lot running on this. And so when you talk about what happened yesterday, anniversary, these anniversaries now are anniversaries of us losing our rights.
Right.
That have as opposed to anniversaries of being able to use about how we're moving forward in this country. So there's a lot at stake. In the Supreme Court, I think people are getting educated about it, but I don't think the average person is really paying attention.
Well, people don't understand is literally after the Supreme Court decision, these Republican legislatures raced to change laws. They started shutting down polling locations. They started instituting voter ID. All of these laws, all of these happened after this change. And people also got to remember, before this, every time the Voting Rights Act came up to be reauthorized, it was passed huge numbers of Republicans and Democrats.
That's right. 2006. I remember being in your hometown of Houston with Congresswoman Sheila Lee. We were working and having those hearings and how it was bipartisan. I think it was almost 100% vote in the Senate, and it was bipartisan. But what you have is a party that's decided that in order to maintain power, then the structure doesn't work for them. So dismantling the whole system, even with its flaws, is what they're doing.
Yep.
And so that way it won't matter about who you vote for. It won't. You talked about one person, one vote. It won't matter. It doesn't matter. We want to stay in power by any means necessary, and they are serious about it, and we better get serious about what that means for our community and this nation.
Jelana?
I'm really interested, and I'm really thankful that we're talking about this, because here in Harris County, if you'll recall, Chris Hollins was over our elections, and we had very favorable opportunities, I'll say that, for Black people to vote. We had 24-hour voting. We had Sunday voting. We had all these things to make it easier to vote and not more difficult to vote. Now, the Republicans were kicking and screaming. Once they changed all these rules, gerrymandering is the name of the game for Republicans. Once you didn't have to go get pre-clearance, and for people that don't understand legal terms, right? Pre-clearance is you have a history of discriminating against whoever. So before you can change voting rules for those people to vote, you have to go to the federal government and make sure that the laws that you want to change are not going to disenfranchise them. So for 11 straight years, and it will continue until we stop them by voting Republicans out of office. True story. They're going to continue to dismantle. So people are looking at districts in their respective states that don't make a lick of sense for the people that live in those districts. And they make it where it's more difficult for minorities to go vote, especially Black people. And I'll also say this, right now it's 6-3. I used to be on this show called Survivor. I did not understand math. I did not watch the damn show before I was on it. I was on a team of 9, and I was in an alliance of 3. Let me be clear, 3 never beats 6, ever. That's exactly what we have on the Supreme Court right now. Before Donald Trump was elected and put on 3, the Republicans had 3 votes on the Supreme Court. The Democrats had the 6. Now, when Donald Trump replaced 3 people, it's now 6-3. 2 of the justices are going to leave during the next presidency, which is important why we need a Democrat president, because they get to replace 2. So if you take the 6 that the Republicans have now on the court, because as someone said before, the Supreme Court is just another arm of the right-wing Republican Party. You take 2 from 6, you get 4, and then you add 3 to the add 2 to the 3 we have, it would be 5-4. At least we have a chance to preserve some of our democracy and some of the fairness. So absolutely, the courts are on the ballot. They're on, and I suspect that as the Supreme Court listens to more cases, more of the rights that our predecessors, that our ancestors fought for us to have, that Thurgood Marshall fought for us to have, that Rosa Parks fought for us to have, that Martin Luther King fought for us to have, we're going to lose those rights. And trust and believe, Black people, you think that it can get worse? It absolutely can. So we have got to teach Black history and DEI so people can understand how we're going backwards, because what we have is a lot of people who are blinking and they're not paying attention to the big picture.
Melanie?
Ditto, my sister, right? We're really at war, Roland. This is not whether the pendulum swings. You just, oh, well, you know, the pendulum will swing. There's not going to be a pendulum to swing back. If what they're continuing to do with these cases in the Supreme Court, and they stack the courts, and yes, the Biden-Harris administration has definitely replaced a lot of judges, but not enough, especially in the South where we are, especially where a lot of these things are happening. And so the reality that folks will be able to indiscriminately continue. Georgia just passed a whole other set of rules. Because, Roland, you know, they look at how we vote, and then every cycle, they look at how we vote, and depending on who's in control, the state legislature and the governor's office, they decide how, if they're in a red state, not just a fact, I'm not being partisan, just facts, then they figure out, okay, well, how do we make sure that the next time they vote, that we can make sure that we suppress even more votes. Yep. And so that's where we are. And so this Supreme Court, if they have the ability to put 2 more justices on that court, it's a new day, and it's not a good day for our community, because the other part of it, folks are already setting up in case their candidate doesn't win to try to come after and still come back and try to nullify if their candidate doesn't win. And I'm talking about the Republican Party. I'm not advocating, because I am nonpartisan, but I can read and I can pay attention. And we got to make sure our people are paying attention to how we know the economic situation is dire in our community. Every lever of upward mobility is under attack. It's on the ballot. Diversity, equity, inclusion is on the ballot. Voting rights, women's rights, the ability for us to organize as labor unions, anything that impacts the masses with a multiracial a country that we have is under attack. They want a small group of people who have means, rich folks who have means to control. Last I checked, that is an autocracy, oligarchy, whatever, right? The reality is they want the rich folks to run everything, and vote won't matter. They want to set it up, and so whether you Black or brown or young or anything that could be seen as progressive and not about a few people controlling and put a fascist in place. Right. We've seen it. I'm so glad people are talking about the 2025 plan. I know you've talked about it on your show and elsewhere. It's like, look at your eyes are not, but you got to pay attention and got to make sure that we sound the alarm in our community. Right. This is not what you can vote on. Let me quick, Rebecca.
Hey, Melanie, it's really good to see you tonight. So we know in Georgia, it's now a felony to give someone food or drink if they're standing in line to vote. We know in Florida, if you help 2 or more folks turn in their absentee ballots, that is now a felony to do so. We know in states like Kentucky and Virginia, there's arbitrary voting rights restoration for convicted felons. We know in Arizona, there's show your papers, and we know that in Wisconsin, there's many voters that were purged off of the voting rolls. So with that said, we also have a lot of targeted misinformation and disinformation towards Black folks in this country headed into the elections. So what do we need to be doing to make sure that we're convincing Black folks to turn out to vote in November? And what support do Black voters need to hear in order to turn out in November?
Melanie?
Good to see you too, sister. We need to be organizing now, and a lot of our organizations are. But we gotta turn the heat up. We gotta get on the ground. It is not something we're gonna be able to do on our telephones. It's not gonna be just doing a text banking campaign and say that's how we're going. We gotta get in. It's hard work, right? But our ancestors have gone through a whole lot worse. And so that's what it's going to take. It's going to take us organizing together. It's going to take Roland being able to make sure that you and others are able to get the access that you need, by the way, in order to be able to make sure that our communities get information from trusted voices. We know with so many other things, we got this situation we're talking about with the courts. And so there's a lot of things coming at us, but we are a resilient people. And if it didn't matter, it wouldn't be bothering us. So we got to make sure that we help build this country, and we're not going anywhere. I'm doing that. We've been doing our power to ballot campaign since last year, right? And we're going to keep on doing what we need to do, but we also need to come together and make sure that we're strategizing, because the attacks that are going to come through social media, through artificial intelligence, are also going to be things that we don't, in a way that are going to be much more robust. And so we've got to find ways to make sure that folks are getting good information in order to make sure that we're able to vote, but have that vote counted and move our communities forward. We got a lot of work to do, but we can get it done.
All right. Melanie Campbell, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Roland.
All right, folks, we come back. We're going to talk about Reggie Jackson. He made some comments this week at the historic game took place in Birmingham about how he had to deal with racism. But also, he did another Q&A where he talked about Bear Bryant, how he straight told him to his face that he was a nigger. Oh, wait till we play for you that video. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Support the work that we do. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. The goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing on average $50 each a year, $4.19 a month, 13 cents a day. Send your check and money order to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 2003 7-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered, PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. We'll be right back.
Hello, my brothers and sisters. This is Bishop William J. Barber II, co-chair of the Poor People's Campaign, a national call for a moral revival, and president of Repairs of the Breach. And I'm calling on you to get everybody you know to join us on Saturday, June 29th at 10 o'clock a.m. in Washington, D.C. on Pennsylvania and 3rd for the mass Poor People's Low-Wage Workers Assembly and Moral March on Washington and to the polls, and the post effort to reach 15 million poor and low-wage infrequent voters who, if they vote, can change the outcome of our politics in this country.
Our goal is to center the desires and the political policy agenda of poor and low-wage persons, along with moral religious leaders and advocates. Too often, poor and low-wage people are not talked about, even though in this country today, there are 135 million poor and low-wage persons. There's not a state in this country now where poor and low-wage persons do not make up at least 30% of the electorate.
It is time that the issues of poor and low-wage people be at the center of our politics. Living wages, health care, things that matter in the everyday lives. We will no longer allow poverty to be the fourth leading cause of death in this country. We must let our voices be heard. Join us. Go to our website, www.poorpeoplescampaign.org. RSVP. Get others to come. Get a bus. Get a van. Get on the train. Come and let our voices be heard and our votes be felt. Lift from the bottom so that everybody rises.
Hey, it's John Murray, the executive producer of the new Sherry Shepherd Talk Show. And you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
A lot of races across the country last night. One of them that was closely watched was that of Congressman Jamaal Bowman. He lost re-election in the primary to George Latimer in the 16th district congressional race. According to the ad tracking at Impact, the race between Bowman and Latimer drew more than $25 million in ad spending, a lot of that from AIPAC. It was the most expensive House primary in history. That's right, in history. Last night, here's Bowman conceding defeat, but promising that the broader fight for humanity and justice will continue.
This movement has always been about justice. It has always been about humanity. It has always been about equality. And it has always been about our collective liberation. This movement has always been about.
Now, folks, that was that particular race last night. There were some other races that we saw taking place. One of them, when you talk about some of these local elections that took place, one of them was actually in New York State, where you had a longtime district attorney, go to my iPad, a longtime DA, who was running, who often opposed criminal justice reform. Well, guess what? He lost in Albany County to Democratic primary Lee Kinlan, a progressive DA. And so that was a race. In Colorado, Lauren Boebert won her particular race. In South Carolina, Pastor Mark Burns, who was endorsed by Donald Trump, well, guess what? He lost his race. And in South Carolina, the three white conservative Republicans, three women who stood in opposition to an abortion bill in South Carolina, all three of them lost their primaries. Let's go to my panel here. This is the thing that we constantly talk about. I'm starting with you, Robert. Local races matter. Too much focus is often on what's happening nationally. And when you talk about campaigns, judicial races, DA races, state rep, state senate, county government, city hall, school board, on and on and on, all of these have a direct impact on public policy and the lives of everyday people.
You're exactly correct, and this is why it's so important for us to focus on those races, because when it comes to criminal justice reform, nobody's going to do that better than your local judges, your DAs, your prosecutors, your police chief, your sheriff, etc. And that can be voted on the local level. Whether or not the Justice Department or the Biden administration or Congress moves on it, you can make those things happen on the local level. But also, we have to, as we talked about in the first segment, we have to look at the impact that some of these outside groups and their spendings have have on these local races. Jamaal Bowman having to go up against $20 million of outside money because he believes in the rights of Palestinians and that they should not be, we should not have 30,000 children being bombed to death in Gaza. I think that should send chills up the spines of everyone in this country. This idea that you have Congress people that are no longer accountable to the voters in their district. They're accountable to Netanyahu. They're accountable to what these special interest groups do from across the world and across the country. This very much shows us that if you stand up and speak out against certain groups in America, no matter how secure you are in your seat, they can flood the zone with enough money to defeat almost anybody. And we saw the Democratic establishment, Hillary Clinton endorsing his opponent, other members of the mainstream Democratic Party basically bending the knee before AIPAC. We saw John Fetterman meeting with Netanyahu after Netanyahu insulted the U.S. earlier this week. We have to start taking control of our local elections and now allowing money, special interest groups, and foreign power to decide who represents our communities. Otherwise, we will no longer have a voice in this oligarchical system.
I'm looking at there was a piece here that I didn't even realize this. So Elizabeth Epps, she was an abolitionist, Rebecca. She shocked folks when she won her race 2 years ago. But just last night, and look, when she went to the Colorado legislature, I mean, she was sitting here kicking butt, was challenging Democrats left and right. Well, the governor backed another person running against her, and she lost her primary last night. This is a perfect example that people have to understand. Every election matters. When you have somebody when you have strong progressive voices, you have to recognize that, hey, they might have won 2 years ago, but if they piss people off, people are going to come after them, which means that those voters have to keep doing the work, and you got to keep showing up.
Yeah, and oftentimes this is less about the actual voters, but more about the local party politics. Even if we go back to New York Congressional District 16, Jamaal Bowman's seat, in 2020, it was about 30% Black, 34% white. Now this year, it is 21% Black, 42% white. We know that white voters don't always vote for Black candidates. So now the district was within 4 points between Black voters and white voters, and now it's double the amount of white voters versus Black voters. So I would say even Jamaal Bowman's relationship with the local Democratic Party probably led to that gerrymandering happening in a way that wasn't racially advantageous for where Jamaal Bowman's politics are. And I would be curious looking at Epps' seat to see if there was a redrawing of her particular political subdivision and to understand what that racial makeup is. And I say that to say is that we talk about Republicans playing dirty, but also Democrats play dirty too. And when it comes to these primaries, we're seeing that the progressive voices are being overshadowed by more of the mainstream voices. Even seeing what Hakeem Jeffries' staff and Hakeem Jeffries' office itself said about Jamaal Bowman and trying to paint Jamaal as being anti-Semitic when you and I both know that Jamaal Bowman is not anti-Semitic.
Well, first of all, Jeffrey endorsed Bowman. So we talk about
there were some comments that was released by his staff earlier today that seemed to criticize Jamaal Bowman. So it was interesting watching.
Oh no! What you're talking about is, so what happened is the Justice Democrats criticized Congressman Hakeem Jeffries, saying he did not come to the district to campaign for him, and his people fired back at them. So that was the exchange between his communications people and the Justice Democrats.
Thank you.
The thing here, Jolanda, is, and look, you've been on the city council, you've been on the school board, now in the state legislature, that people don't seem to understand what Rebecca was just talking about, the redrawing of lines. The reality is when you have redistricting, these things happen. What people don't realize is people, when they look at maps, it's about how can you maximize power. And so we're just going to take Houston for an example. You had efforts to redefine and how do you redraw school district boundaries. That was before the Texas Education Agency and the state Republicans took the district over. You have a community college where you had folks sitting here, and what they do is they study the maps and, okay, if we can take a percentage here and a percentage here and move folks around, how do you configure maps to guarantee victories? We see those things happening. Then you start talking about city council and then state rep and then state senate. I mean, that's the stuff that people don't understand. And so in the case of Bowman, the district that he ran in 2024 was totally different than when he beat Elliot Engel in 2020. And so you also have to make adjustments when you're running, when these things happen, because the agenda that you might be advocating for 4 years ago no longer fits the district that you're now in.
You are speaking truth to power. It's like what they tried to do with Congressman Al Green and Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. They literally tried to combine those and lose a black seat. You know, thankfully, we had some people in the legislature who had a lot of seniority, which matters in the Texas legislature, and they were able to prevent that. But Congresswoman Jackson Lee's district was totally different. They got rid of some black people. It's still a 70%, like I think, minority district, but it's not like it was a safe black Democratic seat. With Congressman Green, they gave him more Hispanics. So they're doing stuff to little by little chip away. And what people don't understand is that local politics, the elected officials locally are more likely to know what's going on in your neighborhood, what's wrong. But I think that what we need to do as elected officials is we need to pay attention, like Roland said, to these new lines. And if they give us new territory, we need to go and we need to speak with those people, listen to their issues so that we can address those issues. So the campaign that I run this year is not going to be the same campaign as I ran 2 years ago. So they do make it very different, but it's discouraging to know that you can buy elections, which again is why the Shelby v. Holder decision was problematic, because it allowed outside interests, as has been said before, to come in and buy elections. And I'm telling you, even if someone gets elected locally, those are springboards to bigger elected offices where you can do more damages across the country. So we need to pay attention, and Bowman's loss should make us all pay attention and try to make sure that we're not at the wrong end of that boulder.
Indeed, indeed. All right, folks, hold tight 1 second. We come back. You know what? I should just do it right now. So, all right. So this morning, my phone started ringing from black folks in black media saying they were denied credentials by CNN for tomorrow's presidential debate. I was like, what the hell is that about? So I posted a tweet, tagged the head of corporate PR for CNN, saying, hey, I don't know how y'all just freezing out black-owned media. So I then, at 12:07 p.m., I then sent an email to the folks at CNN saying, hey, listen, black-owned media is important. Here's the whole deal. So y'all should, rectify this. And nothing happened. Well, what then happened is folks start turning up that heat. And so about 4 o'clock, you had the folks at the Atlanta Black Star. They dropped this story here with the headline, Disrespectful, CNN excludes Black American media from 2024 president debate in Atlanta, but approved credentials for reporters from other countries. And so they say that, well, how are you going to have, reporters from all across the globe covering this debate, but you don't take care of folks who are right here in the United States. And actually CNN actually hit me back with a statement. I'm going to show you exactly what they said to me. And then also just give me a second. And then, so give me 1 second. Let me pull this email up to show you. And this is from Emily Kuhn. She is Kuhn. She is the head of corporate communications. So I sent the email to her as well as to the big boss at CNN, Mark Thompson. And so she goes, "Hi, Roland. Thank you for the note. We're welcoming more than 800 journalists from around the world to Atlanta this week to cover the CNN presidential debate. Information about how to apply for media credentials was made available to the public on May 15th in the announcement and confirmation of a debate. Unfortunately, due to size and security constraints, we were unable to accommodate additional credential requests following our June 7th application deadline, which was also communicated. There have been many requests for credentials since June 7th, and again, due to size and security constraints, we're simply unable to accommodate Emily." And so that's what she actually, sent to me there. Now, the Congressional Black Caucus Political Action Committee, well, they weighed in, and this is the statement that they dropped. This came from Congressman Gregory Meeks. It said, "Today, on behalf of the Congressional Black Caucus, CBC PAC Chairman Representative Gregory Meeks released the following statement admonishing CNN for excluding Black-owned media from covering the CNN presidential debate and calling on CNN to act immediately to credential a minimum of 10 Black-owned media outlets. This afternoon, we learned that CNN has credentialed 800 members of the media for the first presidential debate of the election cycle. Not one represents a Black-owned media outlet. CNN's exclusion of Black-owned media represents an egregious oversight and is totally unacceptable. CNN must immediately credential Black-owned media outlets ahead of tomorrow night's debate. Failure to do so is a choice, an offense to Black Americans and cannot stand. We're calling on CNN to credential a minimum of 10 Black-owned media outlets for tomorrow's debate. Black-owned media provides a critical, trusted source of information to our communities, and their role in our democracy must be respected and honored by CNN." So that was what the CBC PAC had posted about 30 or 40 minutes ago. Ebony Magazine, give me 1 second. I got this text message because Ebony Magazine dropped a story of theirs. Let's see if I can find it. Here it is. Their headline, CNN's exclusion of Black media raises concerns over influence and voting suppression. And so this is their story, and they say CNN refused to secure credentials for any Black media outlet ahead of the first 2024 presidential debate. And so they lay out in here what took place. I do know, and then it says here, at the Biden-Harris campaign, which has actively advocated for the inclusion and presence of local and national Black outlets at Thursday's debate, they're going to be hosting an exclusive gaggle, a more informal press briefing that does not allow video of the actual debate. This move is seen by many as an attempt to address the concerns raised by Black media as the Biden-Harris campaign seeks to optimize visibility for Black and brown voters who play a pivotal role in the election season. Now, there are a lot of people who have hit me and they said, "Well, Roland, did they deny you?" No, we were not denied. We never applied. We had no plans on traveling to Atlanta to cover the debate because I'm not going to spend money just sitting in a big-ass room when I can literally do it right here in my studio. And so tomorrow night, y'all can show the graphic, we're going to have our own coverage right here. We're going to have our panelists in studio. We're going to have pre-debate coverage. We're going to simulcast the debate. Then we're going to have post-debate coverage taking place as well. And so that's what we are doing. So we'll be having at least 4, potentially 5 hours of coverage of this first presidential debate taking place tomorrow, beginning at 8 p.m. Eastern. There will not be a show at 6 p.m. Eastern. And so this is one of the things that, and so here's what you have. You have CNN saying, hey, that was a deadline. But here's the thing that people like CNN don't get. And they need to understand this. And I deal with this all the time. I deal with this with campaigns. I deal with this people on Capitol Hill. So what happens is mainstream media people, they think they only talk to themselves. They go, oh, well, we're all sort of in this same thing, so therefore we know. What they don't understand is not everybody is in that world. Happens all the time. Things will happen on Capitol Hill, and they'll say, oh, we got pool coverage. It happened when Vice President Harris went. Well, she had one of the trips, and same thing when they had the launch for Biden-Harris, Blacks for Biden-Harris in Philadelphia. It was like, we had pool coverage, and I had to explain to them, hey, everybody can't afford the pool. It actually cost significant amounts of money to be in the Washington, D.C. pool. Give you a perfect example. When CNN initially was talking about this debate, they were talking about, sharing it with the pool in terms of how it goes out. But if you're not in it, it doesn't work. We are members of the Associated Press. We pay Associated Press about $170,000 a year. People don't understand is there are levels of the Associated Press. So there are a lot of things that we will see. It says U.S. out, meaning no U.S. outlet can stream that particular event. We deal with that all the time. And so I can understand a lot of the black-owned media outlets not even being aware of these procedures here, because that's not what you do every single day. There are media outlets in this country. Y'all, I was at CNN for 6 years, okay? A lot of these outlets, they have staff whose sole job is to do those things, to literally handle credentialing. You don't even have to sit here. It's like the bosses decide, oh, we're going to bring 75, 100 people. They go, here's the list, boom, boom. You don't even do anything. Next thing you know, got your credential, whatever the heck. No. And so these things happen. We've had to deal with this when you cover the political conventions. See? So you would think, all of y'all at home, y'all would think, oh, Democrat political convention, national convention, Republican national convention, which means that if you're going to get a credential as a media to cover it, that means you're going to go through the DNC, go through the RNC. Nope. Guess who controls the credentialing? The radio and television gallery on Capitol Hill. They control that process. Well, because here's the deal. They go, well, everybody covers Capitol Hill. No, we don't. So every 4 years, we typically have problems dealing with the people in the radio TV gallery. And then what we have to then do is go to the DNC and the RNC and say, hey, yo, they tripping. That happened in 2016. I had to deal with Sean Spicer to make sure we had credentials to cover the Republican National Convention in Cleveland. We ain't going this year, waste of money. And so we had to deal with him on that. And so we've had to do the workaround to deal with that. And so that's what the CNNs of the world have to understand. Here's what I think makes sense right here. Listen, it's 800 people. You have security restraints. You have time constraints. Robert, here's to me what makes sense. You've had the Atlanta Black Star, Atlanta Voice saying, hey, what the hell's going on? First of all, you can't be in the Black Mecca and you're going to leave out 2 Black Atlanta newspapers. Now, to me, what makes sense is, the CBC, totally understand it. Hey, 10 credentials, not sure how many you can get. But first thing, CNN, credential the Atlanta people. Okay, that's first. And the other deal is here. NNPA, which represents all the black newspapers, they apply for a credential. And I saw Stacey Brown's tweet where they applied, they were told, sorry, too late. Now, the Atlanta Voice is a member of NNPA. So they can provide their coverage to NNPA for all of their newspapers, okay? They can actually get that. To me, that's actually what you do. And I know that Black Enterprise, Ebony applied, the Shade Room. And so the thing here is, if what CNN should have done, again, when I sent them the email at 12:07 and realized that, hey, this might blow up, quietly go, okay, we're gonna credential these 5 people, boom, there you go, no story. Then you don't get the Atlanta Black Star story, you don't get the Ebony story, you don't get the CBC PAC story, you don't get a potential statement from the National Association of Black Journalists, and it doesn't become a thing. This is called bad PR. And you gotta know how to avert a crisis with the PR folk. You don't actually make it work. So I wonder on CNN's PR staff, y'all got any black people who are in the room? Something tells me that staff don't have any black people. That might be y'all bigger problem.
Well, Roland, I also love that they gave you the standard pat you on the head reaction. Oh, I'm sorry, little black person, you missed the deadline. If you had only read better, then you wouldn't have done so. And not that they completely missed the context of it, because as you said, they didn't have anybody in the room who could understand that you could not be in Atlanta and not have black journalists from Atlanta in that room. I applied for a credential and got denied because I'm on radio here in Atlanta, and I was going to cover the debate. Instead, I'm going to go to some of the after after events, or I might fly up to D.C. and hang out with you, Roland. But it's one of those issues where the same progressive media that loves to call Trump racist and love to talk about what Republicans are doing often do the exact same thing. They just do it from a different perspective. They think that their white liberalness covers them from also doing things that are by their very nature racist. They have to understand that if you want to truly speak to the needs of black communities, you have to have black people in the room to tell you what those needs are. And through their own haughtiness, through their own condescending nature, this is why we see the ratings what they are for many of these major news networks, particularly CNN, because they do not know how to talk to the very groups that they want to support them.
This is the thing and this was something that, and I told the Biden-Harris people this, when they made the decision not to participate in the presidential commission debates. I said, you can't leave everything up to these individual networks. That should not happen. And Rebecca, that's what you're dealing with here. So you have a network that's deciding who gets to come and who doesn't get to come. And to me, again, if you are, the reason the presidential commission was set up, so you have sort of this other entity that's doing that, and you have this process. That's the thing right there. And I said to them, I literally sent text message, email saying, yo, don't let them screw us over the feed. I said, the feed to this debate, we shouldn't have to pay for it. It should be open to everybody. And then I saw this story where CNN said something like, well, this debate is costing us. You asked for it. And let's be real clear. The debate is happening in your studios. You're not having to go out and rent a facility to actually host this debate. I mean, come on. Now the media overflow, however that works, whatever. But it's like, y'all, come on. Can we get real here in terms of really what's going on here? And so that to me is what the campaigns have to understand is if you start putting these things in the hands of the outlets and they get to control the flow, it's going to be a problem. And look, the conservative outlets that are complaining that they didn't get credentialed.
Yeah, CNN is really showing some incompetence with their coverage and what they're going to do with the presidential debate tomorrow. But here's the other thing. CNN is headquartered in Atlanta. How do they not have existing relationships with black media in Atlanta? That's why I'm asking myself.
Well, no. First of all, I'll tell you why, because let's be real. First of all, let me be real clear. When Jeff Zucker was controlling CNN, he gutted CNN in Atlanta. And CNN in Atlanta, they moved all the shows to New York. They completely gutted. They had minimal folks there. They're no longer in the CNN Center connected to the Omni Hotel. They're now in Techwood. So the footprint of CNN has dramatically decreased. So the relationship that CNN used to have with Atlanta, that is not the relationship that they have today. You're not talking, CNN used to be headquartered in Atlanta. Jim Walton was the president he was the worldwide CEO of CNN. His office was in Atlanta. The leader of CNN is in Hudson Yards in New York. And that's part of the problem.
Right. If that's the case, then why didn't they just do this in New York? I'm assuming that the people they have in the New York office will be a lot more competent in the intentional outreach that they should be doing ahead of this presidential debate tomorrow night. But this is also going back to the reason why we need to have the structured debate where everyone knows what the process is, how to get involved to cover the debate, who gets to be in attendance for the debate. That was the whole point of the Presidential Debate Commission. So it sounds like we really should be going back to that system instead of allowing third-party groups who have different points of view or even have a different set of interests other than just providing the debate to the American people. This simply doesn't make sense, and there has to be a better way, and we've seen a better way in previous presidential cycles.
Jolanda?
So some things come to my mind. One, they don't really care about us is the first thing that comes to my mind. Second thing that comes to my mind, Roland, is CNN's cultural incompetency is shown in what they did. I'm not convinced that they really do want progressive ideas, because just like the Democratic Party, they need Black people but have no clue about how to get us. But it also tells me that CNN doesn't care about Black people hearing about the presidential debates, because I'm not convinced they want us to turn out to vote. And I think that they absolutely appreciate how important Black media is to Black people and Black voter turnout. So I think that they're very polite. Basically, the Black people don't know how to get a credential, and that's why they ain't here, is the tropism that white folks always do to us. And at least with Republicans, I know they're coming for me. The problem with Democrats and progressives is they appear to be our friends, and they think they're our friends, but they treat us just as bad and sometimes worse than the Republicans, because as you hugging me, telling me you support me, you stabbing me in the back.
This is not a hard fix, y'all. It's really not a hard fix. It's not. Again, this is what, if you're the PR folks, you don't want to have a PR problem. You shouldn't have allowed this story to get to the point where it is right now. And I'll say this here, if they don't come up with a fix tonight, guess what? It's going to escalate tomorrow.
We need to boycott. Black folks need to boycott CNN. I don't know if they want Black people to watch it.
Well, actually, if you look at their ratings, I think that's already happened.
We need to do it more.
You've seen, I mean, look, they don't have one show that gets 1 million viewers. They lag far behind Fox and MSNBC. But again, this is not hard. And this is what I will say to CNN. This is real simple. Who do y'all have in the room? I'm telling y'all right now. I was at CNN for 6 years. If this had happened when I was at CNN, let me tell you exactly how this would have went. The moment I heard this here, I would immediately email Jim Walton. I would have immediately emailed John Klein, who's president of CNN US. I would have immediately interviewed Barbara Levine, who was in PR. I would have immediately emailed the other PR people. And I would have said, hey, y'all, this thing is going to intensify. You might want to fix this. You might want to fix this. I'm just saying, okay? And you would have, and so you would have, because again, when you have cultural competency, you can see the thing unfolding before it unfolds, and so therefore you avert the problem. In fact, I did that all the time. There were a lot of times when certain stories would happen, I would see it. I'm like, yeah, we need to be doing this right here before this thing goes here, and so that needs to happen as well. So I would also hope the Black folks who are at CNN, the people who are on air, and the commentators, and the host, and the anchors, and the correspondents, I would hope they're weighing in as well, because otherwise, why are you there? Stand up for Black-owned media, not just for mainstream folks as well. So we'll see. All right, y'all, going to a break. We come back. Let's talk about Reggie Jackson and the comments that he made last week. People are still talking about. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
I need you to scream for your new beginning. 5, 4, 3, 2. I need you to shout for it. I need you to shout for it. It won't always be like this. Sooner or later, it's gonna work in your brother's favor, in your sister's favor. They shall not die. They shall not die. They shall not die. I want you to embrace somebody and tell them welcome to the greatest season of your life. Hug somebody, welcome.
Me, Sherry Shepard, with Sammy Roman.
I'm Dr. Robin B., pharmacist and fitness coach, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
folks, Hall of Famer Emmitt Smith says the recent comments from Reggie Jackson further emphasize the need for diversity, equity, and inclusion programs in the country. Last week, the Hall of Famer in baseball, Reggie Jackson, recounted his experience dealing with racism when he was in Birmingham for the MLB game around Juneteenth, which took place at Rickwood Field in Birmingham, the country's oldest professional baseball park in the United States and the former home of the Birmingham Black Barons of the Negro Leagues. Smith released this statement on Tuesday. He said, as I'm reflecting on Reggie Jackson's raw comments from last week, it reinforces why DEI programs and initiatives must exist. His truth is a reminder of the pain and suffering endured by many of our Black ancestors, including significant sports figures. Few legends, he says, few legends like him are alive to share their stories and shed light on the racist history of this. This is why DEI is so vital for the progress of this nation. People with power, money, and influence must acknowledge these horrifying times when America failed Black people and Black and brown people to dismantle the systematic racial systems that still exist today. These stories must be heard so we don't continue to make the same mistakes over and over and over again. Now, in case you missed what Reggie Jackson said, we're going to play a couple of bites because there's a new bite that you may not have seen. And so this right here, so actually go to my iPad. So this is the statement that Reggie Jackson made on the Major League Broadcast Conversation.
Reggie, the baton has been passed for over a century here. We've been talking earlier about if it wasn't for the Willie Mays, the Jackie Robinson, the Reggie Jacksons, the three of us wouldn't have an opportunity to play. How emotional is it for you to come back to a play that you played with one of the greatest teams around?
Alex, when people ask me a question like that, it's like coming back here is not easy. The racism that I played here, when I played here, the difficulty of going through different places where we traveled. Fortunately, I had a manager and I had players on the team that helped me get through it. But I wouldn't wish it on anybody. People said to me today, I spoke, and they said, you think you're a better person? You think you won when you played here and conquered? I said, you know, I would never want to do it again. I walked into restaurants and they would point at me and said, can't eat here. I would go to a hotel and they say, then can't stay here. We went to Charlie Finley's country club for a welcome home dinner and they pointed me out with the N-word. He can't come in here. Finley marched the whole team out. Finally, they let me in there. He said, we're going to go to the diner and eat hamburgers. We'll go where we're wanted. Fortunately, I had a manager, Johnny McNamara, that if I couldn't eat in the place, nobody would eat. We'd get food to travel. If I couldn't stay in a hotel, they'd drive to the next hotel and find a place where I could stay. Had it not been for Raleigh Fingers, Johnny McNamara, Dave Duncan, Joe and Sharon Rudy, I slept on their couch 3-4 nights a week for about a month and a half. Finally, they were threatened that they would burn our apartment complex down unless I got out. I wouldn't wish it on anyone. The year I came here, Bull Connor was the sheriff the year before. And they took minor league baseball out of here because in 1963, the Klan murdered 4 black girls, children, in 11, 12, 14 years old at a church here and never got indicted. They were from the Klan. Life magazine did a story on them like they were being honored. I wouldn't wish it on anyone. At the same time, had it not been for my white friends, had it not been for a white manager and Rudy, Fingers, and Duncan, and Lee Myers, I would have never made it. I was too physically violent. I was ready to physically fight I'd have got killed here because I'd have beat someone's ass, and you'd have saw me in an oak tree somewhere.
Reggie, I can't even imagine. It's awful you had to go through that, but you know,
appreciate you sharing the rawness and the honesty of it with our audience. I mean, really,
we love you, Reg.
Yeah, thank you.
Quick history lesson right there.
That's a great history lesson. Reggie Jackson telling us all about it, preaching. Wow.
Now, Reggie Jackson also participated in a Q&A with my good friend Roy Johnson, who is a columnist with AL.com. And he said this about legendary football coach, Alabama great. He also coached at Texas A&M. I think he did Kentucky too. Can't remember that. Bear Bryant. Listen to this.
The most impactful memory I ever had at Rickwood Field. It's tough to hear if you're from Alabama. At the same time, it came from a friend. He never apologized for it, but he was a friend. I'd hit 2 triples in a game, and I could run like a deer. After the game, the few people were around. Charlie Finley had come to that game. His son, Paul Bryant, was there. Paul Bryant was there. Alf Van Hoos was a sports writer here in this town. And Bear Bryant. And I was getting changed, finishing a shower and putting my shirt on. And Bear Bryant walked up to me and paid me a compliment. 1967. And he said to the group, "This is just the kind of nigger boy that we need in order to compete with Bo, Woody, Ara, and Johnny. Johnny Robinson of USC, Ara Parsegian of Notre Dame, Bo Schembechler of Michigan, and Joe Paterno of Penn State." He meant it as a compliment. He said, if we don't get one of these, we're not going to be able to compete with them. And about a few months later, USC came here with Sam Cunningham and beat Alabama 42-10. I got called up to the major leagues, and Bear Bryant came up to Charlie Finley's to Chicago in one of my first games and watched me play my first game. 21 years later, when I retired, I played my last game in Chicago there. And Bear Bryant came to see me play my last game. And so that friendship lasted until he passed. But that was the most impactful thing that happened to me in Rickwood Field.
Now, a lot of us remember the story of Bear Bryant talking about trying to convince those folks in Alabama that he should recruit black players, and how when they played USC, they got their asses whooped. But Rebecca's a lot different to hear Reggie Jackson talk about how this man put his hand on his shoulders and said, "Man, we need a nigga like this."
First of all, the fact that people believe that Bear Bryant was this great white hope who was trying to reconcile black and white relations in Alabama is so laughable to me, especially when you think about the history there and why there's many black folks who are supporting Auburn, even to this day, support the War Eagles because of Alabama's stance on racial integration of their football team. I'm still not convinced that Bear Bryant is this great person because of that 1970 game, and he just wanted to prove to the higher ups, hey, we need black people too, so we won't get our butts kicked. I'm not buying it. It's still Alabama, and this is still America. And so I am very grateful that Reggie Jackson is sharing his truth, because what's unfortunate is that Major League Baseball now doesn't have a lot of black American players. Because Major League Baseball decided, okay, we could go someplace, quote unquote, cheaper and invest money in it to create a pipeline of players, i.e. going into the Caribbean, to the Dominican Republic, and some of the other islands to recruit players. But hearing Reggie Jackson in his own words, especially on the heels of Willie Mays passing, it's a reminder to us all. Just because Jackie Robinson or just that one person, quote unquote, broke the color barrier doesn't mean that there isn't decades and decades of racial trauma for those who were still involved in the sport. But quite frankly, we can even take this out of sport. Just because we have civil rights laws in the books, those who are the first Black person to do this or the first Black person to do that, it doesn't mean that the rest of us Black Americans aren't carrying the trauma and the scars of racial hostility and violence towards us.
And you know, Jelana's a whole bunch of those folks he was talking about, they still living.
So I'm going to say this. This is personal to me. The first thing I'm going to say is, if you've been called a nigger, raise your hand. First thing I'm going to say. The second thing I'm going to say is, you don't have to have lived back then. I had the privilege to speak with Bill Russell in Boston one year at a Hall of Fame event. Bill Russell told the exact same stories that Reggie Jackson told. It was consistent, and it didn't stop with him. I went to Elsick High School. I graduated in 1984. If you go pull the 1981 Elsick High School, you are going to find a picture of me dressed as an African cannibal with a bone in my hair, in a grass skirt and a bikini top, because I was sold at a slave sale for the freshman senior prom fundraiser and bought by my teammates and called a nigger by my teammates. This happens all of the time. When I was at the University of Houston, we had conference at Fayetteville, Arkansas, University of Arkansas during the Southwest Conference. They literally wouldn't put gas in our bus. We traveled by bus because there were Black people. So I'm not surprised by what Reggie Jackson says. All we have to do is go look, pull the 1981 Elsick yearbook. This happens all the time. And I think the thing that concerns me the most or hurts me the most is people think because one Black person was president or because Oprah's a media mogul or because Tiger won or Venus and Serena won, that racism does not still exist. It absolutely does. And we need to listen to these stories, and we need to share these stories. And just because you made it doesn't mean that racism is not affecting other people.
Robert?
And I think that this goes a lot deeper than simply sports. As Rebecca was making the point, that right now you have someone like Charlie Kirk, who is openly saying that part of Project 2025 will be repealing the Civil Rights Act of 1964. They are now trying to put dirt on the legacy of Dr. King. We saw Tucker Carlson in an interview with some Black preacher trying to dissuade people from believing and supporting the work of Dr. King. These people made it very clear that their goal in this next election is to do a wholesale reversal of American society. The first Trump term was about making America great again, quote unquote. The second Trump term is about returning to that great America they think they're creating, one that existed prior to Black people having the rights to integration, prior to Black people having a protected right to vote, prior to Black people having social mobility and the economic opportunity to outdo many people in the white communities. This is why they're fighting so hard against diversity, equity, inclusion, as Emmett Smith pointed out. This is why they're fighting so hard against quote-unquote CRT, because if you can create a version of American history that Byron Donald believes and propagate that throughout the country, then you can convince people of almost anything. We have to understand the existential threat to our community that is not coming, that is here, and that we have it is our generation's duty to make sure we're not pushed back from all the progress we've made and keep the ball moving forward to where we want to go in the future.
Well, speaking of progress, there was this cigar lounge barbershop conversation in Atlanta with a group of Black Republicans. Robert, you mentioned Congressman Byron Donalds, and so in this video, it's Byron Donalds and Congressman Wesley Hunt and Ben Carson. They sitting there talking to some brothers. Your buddy Shelley Winter is there as well. So let me just play here. So while Donalds decided to call Trump and just listen. So watch this.
But since this has happened, like the mugshot is the best. It just beat Elvis Presley and Frank Sinatra by a lot, by the way. Beat him by a lot. But that's the number one mugshot of all time. It's really an amazing thing. Since it happened, the support among the black community and the Hispanic community has skyrocketed. It's been amazing. Really been amazing. It's been actually very nice to see. You know, it's in one way you say, gee, isn't that too bad? But the truth is, it's really a lovely thing when I see that. We have great support now in the black community and in the history.
All right, so on the far end there, was Rufus Montgomery. Rufus used to be the chair of the Florida and the board of directors, board of trustees. You had all of them there. Now here's what was really funny. Let me find this tweet. So Shelley Winters. Sent me. He has a radio show on WSB, y'all. That's a conservative station. So he posted this tweet a few minutes ago. Tune into the Shelley. Go to my iPad. Tune into the Shelley Winters show right now on WSB Radio and hear the full Trump call in to event today. Hear for yourself the question and its answers. Don't listen to CNN, Roland Martin, or anyone else who's lying to you. Straight up, I was there. Well, I'm sorry, Shelley. What did I lie about? I didn't make a judgment on y'all conversation. But if you want to talk about lying, the man y'all call lies all the time. How often do you correct him? That man sat there and said that, oh, my black support has skyrocketed because of a mugshot. Shelley, what he's saying is, ooh, y'all some criminals. Y'all love criminals. Oh, so now because I got a mugshot. They literally are campaigning saying, oh, that black folk, we used to RICO. We know about being indicted. I ain't never been indicted. I ain't never been charged. His ass got 4 cases. And so I'm sitting here listening to this. And so this is all I want to know, Robert. I know Shelley's your boy. But, Robert, do you ever hear Shelley, Rufus, Wesley Hunt, Byron Donalds, Ben Carson, I don't know who that John Deere trucker dude was sitting right there. You never hear them correct Ben Carson. You never hear them saying, sorry, Donald, you lying about that. No, actually, that's not true. No, that's not true. That man will lie like he did that black church, and they'll just sit there and go, "Ooh, ain't that just so sweet? He just here. We love us a Donald."
Well, the ones I can vouch for, Shelley, and the one, you said the trucker outfit, that's what our friend Mark Boyd. He does great work with survival, teaching classes, etc., for people who are interested in building their own campsteads and homesteads, those sorts of things. I think Bruce was there somewhere off camera. And look, Shelley was smart in getting you to talk about his tweet and giving him free publicity for his show. But I will say there are some conservatives, not Byron Donald, not Hunt, not any of those others, who will challenge Trump on these issues. We see Pastor Darrell Scott often challenging Trump and challenging conservatives on some of these points. I also think that what we have to start doing right now is that now that the Trump campaign is starting to invest and want to start talking to black voters, let's put some demands out there. And I don't want him just to hear him call into a barber shop to talk about what he wants to talk about. I need a very direct and clear black agenda that he can set aside from what Democrats are doing. We know what the Biden administration has done for black folks thus far. We know that they need to do more, and we also know they need to talk more about what they've done. But I would like to hear exactly what is the clarion call from the conservative side of the aisle. Not about mugshots, not about Al Capone or whatever else he was talking about. What are you going to do on reparations, which was a Republican idea from the 1860s and 1870s? What are you going to do about economic development? You talk about small government. There's no better way to shrink government than to shrink the prison population or to reel in and constrain police from being able to abuse African Americans. And I think that if they're going to have this conversation, make sure you're having a substantive discussion and not just a pep rally where we're telling President Trump how great he is. I think you have to ask those direct and hard questions. Shelley says that they did. I'll listen to the tape later, and then we can report back on it. But I'm hoping there was a substantive discussion and not just simply a skinning and grinning competition for the affections of President Trump.
And see, that's what it boils down to me. Listen, I got a text the other night, Rebecca, from somebody talking about that. Well, we can't have disagreements between us. Talking about the pastors, the brother in Detroit. I said, whoa. I said, let me be real clear. I said, I ain't tripping on the pastor having a conversation with Trump. What I'm tripping on is it wasn't no conversation. I said, my problem is, wasn't no agenda. My problem is he allowed him to lie repeatedly, allowed him not to answer any questions. See, I love these people who are like, but we got to hear both sides. Let me help y'all out. How should I put this here? Okay, I got an earpiece in my ear. This earpiece represents the Democratic Party. I ain't got an earpiece in my ear over here. This is the Republican Party. Now, I could hear somebody talking to me here, and I could be off camera and talk into this microphone and talk to the control room. So let's say Democrats are talking, I could talk back, I can hear what they say, I can respond to them. Over here ain't no earpiece. This is the Republican Party. So because I don't hear nothing, I don't respond to nothing. And because nothing is coming in this ear, I ain't got nothing to say. That's the damn Republican Party, Rebecca. And the reality is, when the Republican Party comes to black people, this is what Donald Trump does. Crime. So what is he saying? Crime. A group of black Republicans in Illinois called this meeting, and they had charts and all kind of stuff to the Illinois Republican Party talking about how they could appeal to black voters. And when they were done, Rebecca, this is what the white Republicans said to the black Republicans. Now, we not going to support welfare. And the black Republicans are like, who the hell brought up welfare? And so for all these people who say we should be listening to both sides and we should have folk compete for our vote, okay. Where's your agenda? And once you present your agenda, are you going to listen for our response to your agenda? And then how you going to respond when we hit you back and what we want don't jive with what you said to us?
If people like Byron Donalds wanted to have an actual conversation on policies that are befitting and are in the best interest of black folks, we could have that conversation out of the context of Republican versus Democrat. We could have that conversation talking about black progressivism. We could have that conversation talking about black conservatism and what that actually looks like. However, if Byron Donalds show up under the Republican Party flag, and that's the brand that he's touting, that's where some of the issue is going to come in. Because right now, the number one person carrying the banner of the Republican Party is Donald Trump. So to have the standard bearer call and say, hey, I relate to black people because I have a mugshot, I'm now a convicted felon, I am just like y'all. No, you're not like us. And so my issue even with this, with people like Byron Donald says, hey, if this is going to be transactional, get your money up front because Donald Trump doesn't pay his bills. If all these people are saying, hey, we're going to shuck and jive and do this because we want to make money, fine. I support Black people making money, but let's be clear what this is and what it isn't. This isn't actually a substantive conversation of what it takes to move Black families and Black communities forward in this country, because unless you're actually going to go back, talk reparations, talk about the things that are owed to us, we cannot move forward. And so the other weird thing about this, like when I was looking closely at that picture, I was like, or the video you showed, Roland, because I was trying to figure out if I could say one positive thing about the picture, besides it's very awkward to see like 7 Black men all squished together in a barbershop. As many barbershops that I've been into with my dad, I've never seen that kind of look so awkward. And so I was trying to think of something positive to say. So I will say one thing positive. At least one of them had a shape up, and that happened to be Byron Donalds, because the rest of them are either bald or they need a shape up. Like it's crazy.
And let me go ahead and say this before I go, Jolanda. And I just and I ain't saying this because they Black Republicans. I've actually said this about Democrats too. Can we stop having fucking conversations in barbershops with Black men? That is not the only damn place we go to. This shit get on my nerves every time I hear folk talk about, let's talk. First of all, let me help y'all out. I don't go to a barbershop. My barber comes to me. He cut my damn hair in the kitchen here, okay? All right, so it's some Black men out here where we actually make appointments. We no longer sit listen, I remember growing up and my dad taking us where Harvey cut our hair and shit, we be there for 5, 6, 7 damn hours. We ain't got all that damn time. But I'm sick and tired of every time these strategists, Republican and Democrat, oh, let's talk to Black men. Let's go to the barber shop. Let's talk to Black women. Let's go to the beauty shop. Damn it. Go somewhere else. Jolanda, go ahead.
So, first of all, they caricature us. That's just what they do. So, it's frustrating to me because why aren't we on the golf course? People play golf. Or why aren't we in the suites at sporting events? Or why aren't we in the boardroom? Because they don't presume that we're there. And as long as we sit down and we allow these conversations, then that's something. I'll also say this, Roland. Every time they got something to say, they got something negative to say about you because they're trying to beat you down because they know we listen to you and you understand us. So when your name are on their lips, it's because you're relevant. The next thing, Wesley Hunt ain't got nothing to say. He's here in Houston. He's currently being investigated for spending over $70,000 in campaign funds to join an exclusive white country club. So he ain't gonna say anything about Donald Trump and convicts because he might end up being one. The next thing that I'll say is the Black people that Republicans seem to embrace always seem to have an Aunt Jemima or an Uncle Tom sort of vibe to them, which last time I heard, I'm not walking around with a scarf tied on top of my head, chewing tobacco or whatever. So I think that we need to call them what they are, and we need to stop having the conversations that they want to have, because in order to have substantive conversations about us, you actually have to have a brain. And quite frankly, I believe that Republicans are so terrified of being identified by Trump and getting primary that all they're going to do is sign off on what he says. And that's not a way to have government that represents everybody.
All I'm saying is this is my problem. If y'all want to have a Black conversation, come talk to Black people. Come on. Listen, I ain't afraid. Everybody know. I had Ben Carson on my show when he ran for president on TV1. I had Senator Tim Scott. I've had Byron Donalds on here. Carol, do this here. Call Wesley Hunt's office and invite his ass. Call him every day. Call Donald's office. It's like, if y'all want to have a conversation, let's have a conversation about a Black agenda. Because Trump ain't got one. He ain't got one. And we know that. We know he ain't got a Black agenda. And we know what Project 2025 is. We know this. So I would love to hear, and maybe Robert, you can find out. Shelly Winter, since your ass wanted it. And matter of fact, Shelly, don't just come on my show when Robert co-hosting, when he guest hosting. Bring your ass when I'm here. Come on, Shelly. Bring your ass on this show when I'm here. I'll wait. Because, see, here's what I would love to know. I would love to know, out of all the black men sitting in that damn barbershop, how many of y'all challenged Trump when he said he is going to give immunity to all cops if he comes in so they can do their job? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I want to know how many of y'all asked him that. I want to know how many of y'all said to Trump, are you going to aggressively investigate police officers in wrongdoing like the Biden-Harris administration has done? Because that was one patterns and practice investigation under Trump for 4 years. It's been almost 12 under Biden-Harris. I'll wait. Let me see what y'all got. We'll see. I'll be right back.
Hello, my brothers and sisters. This is Bishop William J. Barber II, co-chair of the Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival, and president of Repairs of the Breach. And I'm calling on you to get everybody you know to join us on Saturday, June 29th at 10 o'clock a.m. in Washington, D.C. on Pennsylvania and 3rd for the mass poor people's low-wage workers assembly and moral march on Washington and to the polls, and the post effort to reach 15 million poor and low-wage infrequent voters who, if they vote, can change the outcome of our politics in this country.
Our goal is to center the desires and the political policy agenda of poor and low-wage persons, along with moral religious leaders and advocates. Too often, poor and low-wage people are not talked about, even though in this country today, there are 135 million poor and low-wage persons. There's not a state in this country now where poor and low-wage persons do not make up at least 30% of the electorate.
It is time that the issues of poor and low-wage people be at the center of our politics. Living wages, health care, things that matter in the everyday lives. We will no longer allow poverty to be the fourth leading cause of death in this country. We must let our voices be heard. Join us. Go to our website, www.poorpeoplescampaign.org. RSVP. Get others to come. Get a bus. Get a van. Get on the train. Come and let our voices be heard and our votes be felt. Lift from the bottom so that everybody rises.
I am Tommy Davidson. I play Oscar on Proud Family, Louder and Prouder.
Right now, I'm rolling with Roland Martin, unfiltered, uncut, unplugged, and undamn believable. You hear me?
So have y'all seen that video of the judge in Georgia? Her name is Christian Coomer. How she hit a cop. They had a run-in at a club or a bar or something like that. Well, she has now been booted from the bench, but it wasn't because of that. It was because of an ethics investigation. After 4 separate hearings on 30 ethics charges, the Georgia Supreme Court ruled that Douglas County probate judge Christina Peterson should be removed from the bench and not eligible to be elected or appointed to any judicial office in Georgia for the next 7 years. The 38-year-old judge is accused of assaulting a police officer outside an Atlanta nightclub. Court documents note that Peterson violated the Code of Judicial Conduct and several violations of the Judicial Qualifications Commission. They said showed a pattern of judicial misconduct while in office. This video, Robert, sure don't help her situation.
Well, why is everything always got to happen in Georgia? Well, nothing ever happens in.
Hey, y'all the new Florida.
Okay, 2 things. One, I'm texting Shelly. Shelly says, I'm game whenever you want, love it, for a debate. So Shelly has agreed to come on the show to debate you about me being involved to where. So Carol has his info. I'll shoot it over to her after the show so y'all can get it set up. I just want to be a fly on the wall for the whole thing. But with Judge Peterson, I know the young lady. She's what I believe happened is the State Judicial Qualification Board had already determined that she needed to be removed from office. She appealed it to the state Supreme Court. The state Supreme Court released their determinations yesterday, removing her from the bench. I believe she knew those things were coming down, and often, as people do when their lives begin spiraling, they begin making even worse decisions. She went to this nightclub. She had a few too many, apparently, to drink. Decided to, instead of leaving orderly, to, of course, resist arrest, which resulted in things getting worse in the video that we see here. I'm hoping that she gets the help that she needs to deal with these issues, and I don't think any of us should celebrate or stomp on the grave of somebody when they appear to be going through a very difficult period of time in their life. I think all of us can imagine ourselves in not this situation in particular, but on our worst day or when we're in a heightened state, something happening, and we wouldn't want to broadcast through the whole world, but that's what happens when you're in public life, when you're in public office. And all that said, I'm hoping for the person to get better, as opposed to some of the people who are celebrating the downfall of a public official. But from the beginning of her term, she's had turmoil, and it appears that has come to a halt, and we're just hoping she can do better in the future.
Rebecca, I saw this video, was it on Big Ticket's page? Yeah. And she was on there, and she was talking about what happened. So roll it. Actually, let me pull it up to y'all. And so she was describing what happened at this, outside of this club. And I'm like, I hear you, but you still gotta be a little different. Okay, pull it up.
You're missing what happened before that. You're missing the attack on the woman. That's what you're missing.
So what I saw in the video, the woman is screaming, hey, he hit me, and you're saying let her go, right? In the video.
Correct. Then the guy that I was talking to was not an officer. I was talking to the guy that was holding her. Whoever that was, I don't know if he was security or whatever, he didn't have authority to be putting his hands on her. She has already been attacked. I don't know if he's part of this attack. I just know I have a right to defend third parties. I know she was a victim, and I know you needed to get your hands off of her.
Did you know her?
No, I don't know anybody.
Oh, you didn't know her at all?
I didn't know her. I just saw her getting attacked, and I mean, how that man was punching her, it was like he was in a boxing ring.
Were you the only one standing up for her?
Yes. And I just didn't, listen, I was minding my business, and let's be clear, I just don't go to that place. I have a friend who, it was his birthday. I love this friend. He's a very kind guy, and I said, okay, I'm gonna go. And it was a night that was fine, and then we were just waiting in line to get some hot dogs, some stuff we don't need at 2 a.m. or whatever. So I just know that I just was sitting there, and then all of a sudden, I'm shifting on my feet because my feet hurting, and then I just saw they just come past me, and just the man just started hitting it, like, and I'm like, I'm shocked at this point, like I'm like triggered, like what in the world, like I don't know if it just really did something. So I knew I didn't have any might to stop him. I can't punch him. I can't do anything. Right. But I could try to. He was pursuing her, so I tried to pull his shirt and just get him off of her.
So was he okay, so they said the allegations are you put your hands on the officer, right? So that's what they're saying, but you're saying you didn't see him in officer clothing or uniform?
That's two different things. So basically you're talking about, so there was an attack and then there was when I was trying to get her out of the man's grasp.
Gotcha, okay.
At that point, the man's grasp is when they're trying to allege that I hit an officer.
Okay. So when you were trying to tell them to let her go, an officer actually grabbed you and told you to get away from the situation, and that's when
the officer said nothing to me.
He said nothing.
Hit me to the ground.
He what?
He knocked me. He knocked me out. He didn't say anything to me.
That's a whole lot going back and forth. Really, what happened, Rebecca? Bottom line is, it was a lot of drama before this happens, and so you gotta, as Robert, you gotta deal with all that other stuff. And not just this.
So Atlanta's not a real place. No disrespect to you, Robert.
It's a reality show. We live in a reality show. I just went through a campaign here. It's a reality show. I give it up. That's where we live at.
I mean, it is what it is. I've never heard a 2 a.m. glizzy story that led to someone being arrested. I want to lean into my better angels like Robert and say, like, yes, there's a real human here going through real human things. However, that interview is not helping. Please hire a crisis manager and, work through this instead of going on radio and telling this story because it seems wildly unbelievable. I don't know what happened here, but if Judge Peterson is in personal crisis, I do hope that she gets the help that she needs.
Jolanda.
So here's the deal. I'm a Black elected official. I'm a Black woman. I know the kind of caricatures they say of us. So with everything that I do, I'm always think, can this shit get on the news? Like, seriously. So I can't talk crazy, even if I'm thinking it. If I'm in a position where there's someone beating up a Black woman and I don't know the woman, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take out my phone and I'm going to start recording. And I'm going to say I'm recording you, right? Because trust and believe. If there's a way to get rid of us in our elected capacity, they're going to do it. I agree. As her lawyer, if I were her lawyer, I'd be like, you are not speaking. I will speak for you. Or we will have a crisis person speak for you because she could actually be sued. And what I'm surprised about with her being a lawyer and a judge is that she didn't think about these things. But as I told my son a long time ago, people with jobs, people with good jobs, they ain't outside in the middle of the night. They at home because they got to get up the next morning and go to work or church if it's the weekend. So I say that to say this. It just seems like she's had a number of bad decisions. I'm going to pray for her. I want for her to do better. But when we, Black people, get into these positions of trust and authority, we need to think really closely about the decisions that we make because, trust me, we're going to be used as examples of why we shouldn't elect Black people because we do things like this.
All right, folks, Louisville, Kentucky needs a new police chief. Jacqueline Gwen Villarreal, who was suspended earlier this month over mishandling a sexual harassment claim about an officer, has resigned. She is the third full-time Louisville police chief to resign or be fired since 2020. Lord, they can't keep nobody. The department's leadership has had a revolving door since officers fatally shot Breonna Taylor during a botched drug raid. Gwen Villarreal's suspension was for how she handled a sexual harassment complaint brought by Major Shannon Lauder against a fellow police major. Lauder reported it to Gwen Villarreal during a May meeting of the command staff, but later at that same meeting, Gwen Villarreal promoted the major to lieutenant colonel. Lauder said she spoke up at the meeting after Gwen Villarreal asked if there were any concerns about working with other command staff members. She was Louisville's first Black female police chief. Well, gotta go. All right, y'all, that is it for us. Tomorrow, y'all, tomorrow, we are going to have the blackest presidential debate coverage anywhere. First of all, if y'all want to watch that unseasoned stuff, go right ahead. Y'all know it's not going to have any flavor whatsoever on other networks. But y'all know it's going to be real. It's going to be to the point. It's just going to be Raw. You know what? You know what I should do? I should have two feeds going. You know how ESPN has the feed of the Manning brothers watching the game? I should have a feed running of a camera in here as we watch the debate and react in real time. I don't know, maybe too much cussing going on. All right, y'all, beginning at 8 p.m. tomorrow, our pre-debate coverage kicks off. Debates 9 to 10:40, and then we are live after that. Man, we got a fantastic lineup of people who are going to be here. I can't wait for us to do a little something. So, y'all, there's not going to be a show at 6 o'clock tomorrow. So we're live 8 p.m. Eastern right here on the Black Star Network. Let me thank Jelana. Let me thank Robert. Let me thank Rebecca for being on today's panel. Thank you so very much. Yeah, Robert, tell Shelly, come on, let's go. Robert, you can be the fly on the wall. It's all good.
He say he down. He say he down.
All right. Hashtag bring your ass. Hashtag bring your ass. All right, y'all. I'm going to see y'all tomorrow. Don't forget, supporters of what we do. Join the Bring the Funk fan club. Send your check and money order to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 2003 7-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. YouTube, get up. Y'all hurry up. 43 likes need to get to 1,000. What's taking y'all so damn long? Hit the like button before I get off. Man, y'all make me do this every single day. All right, y'all. Download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Be sure to get a copy of my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds, available at bookstores nationwide. Ben Bella Books, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Chapters, Books A Million, Target, all those places. You can also, of course, you can get the audio version on Audible. Folks, I'm going to see y'all tomorrow. Yep, I am repping my Texas A&M jersey. We finished second in the College World Series. Then our coach, he left to go to our rival. Yeah, that was pathetic how he left. So shout out to the Aggie baseball team, finishing number 2 in the country, losing to fellow SEC team, the Tennessee Vols. And so my girl Shari Williams is talking way too much trash. She's a Tennessee graduate, so so that's what's up. All right, y'all, I got to go. I'm gonna see y'all tomorrow. Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?